right. Hey guys, this is John with Scottsdale Living, and I'm here today with Sara Chambers. Sara actually just did a workshop Wednesday for us, which was friggin' amazing. So you were off the hook. I really, really appreciate it. Sara's company is Elly and Nora, and we're going to talk about where that came from as well. But so tell us a little bit about what Elly and Nora is and what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much for having me. My name is
Of
Sara
course.
Chambers. And my company is Elly and Nora Creative, and we're a full service creative agency, but we primarily specialize in branding. And for us, that means deep brand strategy, messaging, positioning, and visual identity design. And then we are full service creative. So we do help our clients to not only build that brand, but to activate it across multiple platforms. And most of the time, that looks like web, email, social media, but it can also look like podcasts and video series, anything that is branded platforms to help build your authority and connect with your audience.
I love it. So I think a lot of people get confused, right, between branding, advertising, marketing. Can you kind of give us a little bit like what's the difference is, and who should you be talking to depending on what you need?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe that there are infinite ways to success in business and in life. But there are certain things that if you do them in order, you're going to have a little bit easier time. You're going to avoid some obstacles and some challenges. And so that's really the framework that I like to think about branding and marketing and advertising all really in. And branding really is the first step. If you are able to in an ideal situation, tackle your branding first, then that would certainly be my suggestion. And really, branding is the foundation. It's not just who you are, what you look like, but it's who you are and how you talk about yourself and why you created this business. It's really the filtration system that every piece of communications is going to go through for your entire business, everything from your digital presence and your marketing all the way through your customer service. And so if you try to architect marketing campaigns and advertising campaigns without first articulating that branding and having a solid brand, then it's going to be a lot more challenging. You might find yourself spinning your wheels or reinventing the wheel over and over again. But when you do really clearly articulate who you are, what you do, what makes you different, who you're talking to, why you started this business, and what really positions you differently in the marketplace, then you're going to have an easier time executing on those other pieces, which I believe come next, which are your marketing. And that can mean a host of different tactics from digital marketing to field marketing, really how you get your name out there. And so we really like to think about it is that marketing is the how, but branding is the what.
Gotcha. So, I mean, a lot of people in their mind say branding. It's like, oh, I got to get a logo. There we go. I'm branded, right? So, I mean, you're going to take a way deeper dive than that. I mean, going into like, are you going to look at vision statements and kind of an outline of the whole process? And I totally get what you're saying because I've seen it a million times. I'm a real estate broker, so I see it in real estate all the time where people just kind of get a logo and then take the shotgun and just shoot it out everywhere, right? So, you guys obviously help companies kind of narrow that down.
Yeah, I mean, I love to say that a logo is not your brand is not your logo. And I love convincing and bringing people to this side of it to really join me and that understanding. Really, your visual identity, which includes your logo. So, even thinking more granular than that, your logo is not your brand, but that's not even your entire visual identity. It's this all of these different components brought together to tell a visual story about your brand. But when we work with our clients, we work to create a comprehensive and robust brand strategy first before we even touch your visuals. And so a lot of times when you are just getting started and you're starting scrappy, of course you're thinking, I need a brand, I need a logo. And yes, that is true, but it's just such a small piece of the puzzle. And really, I want to expand people's thinkings about what actually a brand is. And so, yes, when we do that deep dive strategy, we are talking to our clients and really discovering and prompting and seeking to understand and bring clarity to, like I said, that positioning. What is it that makes you actually different than everyone else in your marketplace, in your industry? And what is that message going to be? What is it that you're going to say over and over and over again to create that consistency? What are the values of the company and why did you start this? Because values is something that we're able to communicate and use that as a magnetic connection point between us and our ideal clients. And then there's a whole host of other things. We're looking at ideal client avatars and making sure that we understand who it is that we're talking to. But all of these are really just created to bring an immense amount of clarity and understanding to who the business is, why it operates, what problem it's out to solve. And once we have clarity and understanding around that, then we can take that and actually use it to create a visual identity that is going to actually do something and isn't based exclusively off of the business owner's personal preferences.
No, totally. Yeah, I love that. So, tell me a little bit about. I know I was going through your website and talking earlier, and through the workshop Wednesday where you were here, which was fantastic again. So, you guys get the brand, you develop it, you get everything keyed up, and then you kind of activate it, right? So, I'm assuming the activation is pushing it out there to the world. So, what does that look like? I mean, is that a pretty structured rollout, or how do you kind of control that process?
Oh, yeah, I think that that looks like it looks different depending on the client, and there's a lot of variables to take into consideration. And a lot of it is the capacity of the business, how long the business has been around, and a lot of times that can also depend on budget and where they're at. But it's really taking in all of these factors into consideration and saying, okay, now that we have built this brand, what does activation look like? And there's definitely some pieces that I think are the bare minimum, and then we can build from there. I think that your website is definitely a first step. So for a lot of our clients in that activation phase after the brand has been created in its entirety, web is the first piece of activation that we're working on with them because it is your digital calling card. It is the place that people are going to learn more about you, find information about you. It is a lot of times people's first interaction with your business. It's really important. So we want to make sure that that brand that we've built is clearly articulated across that site and that your visuals are coming through, but also that that message is coming through with all of your conversion, your copy, that people have a clear understanding of who you are and what you do, what problem you solve from the moment that they land on that site, and that you've created a really solid user experience so that they can arrive on that site and easily
Sure.
navigate it and get where they need to go. And then after that, um, it very much depends. A lot of times that looks like email marketing and social media. We don't personally do ads. That's not our area of genius, but that's certainly something that we would suggest after you are putting out some organic content and really starting to establish authority with your audience.
Totally. So it sounds a little crazy, and I think the thing that people should really appreciate, right, is I feel like in a lot of small business owners' minds that they don't really give the value to the creation of the brand that they probably should, and I think it lacks a differentiation between the competition, right? So, I mean, in talking to you and looking at your work and what you've done, it's not just it's not the creative fluff, right? So I mean, it's not just pretty colors. I mean, you guys are analytical, technical. I mean, you really get after the whole thing. So, what would you say to your small business owner out there that they've been in? Let's just pull an example out of a hat, right? So let's talk about a pool company. So there's a whole bunch of guys that do pool routes, right? So what do? They throw a magnet on their truck and they start cleaning pools, right? So how do you interact and work with those clients when they come to you and say, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years and now it's time to kind of, to take it to the next level. How do you bring them, one, kind of back to reality, and two, put them into a program like that? Because I think people just bypass how in depth it really is and how important it really is.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally get it. And we definitely talk to small business owners who have been running their business with a scrappy DIY brand for a certain amount of time. And, hey, this has been working for me and I don't know why I should invest in this. And um I'd really like to say that it's definitely not my job to convince people that branding is important. If
Sure.
you look at the companies, nationwide and global companies, they are investing heavily into brand because they understand the value of it. So, first of all, we have to be on the same page about whether or not branding is important. And if we can come to the conclusion that it is important, now we can step into the side of the conversation that says, well, how is this applicable to me? And
Sure.
what I would say is that there are new businesses being opened up every single day, and every single industry is saturated. And that doesn't mean that it should stop us from starting new businesses or being innovative, but it does mean that the competition is huge, and people are going to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And branding is what gets you those three factors. Is that know factor? People can't do business with you if they don't know you. So you have to put yourself out there. They have to like you, which means that you have to give them something to like, and they have to trust you. And that comes in consistency over time. And what happens, especially with like your example of like a pool company, is that if I don't have anything that attaches me to that company that gives me that know, like, and trust factor, the
Price.
second that you raise your prices, I'm out.
Yeah.
The second that you show up 30 seconds late, I'm out. I have nothing sticky that keeps me loyal to that company at all. I will drop you in a second
Sure.
because there's nothing there that anchors me to your company, that connects me to your company, that tells me that you are the one that is right for me, and that I'm willing to go pay a little bit more. I'm willing to go above and beyond. I'm willing, because we all have those brands in our life that we're like, yeah, that one's super cheaper, but I don't care because I like this brand. This is mine. I feel connected and loyal to that. I mean,
It's
I have
The Walmart Target thing, right?
totally.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're doing to be able to not only attract new customers, but also maintain the ones that you have? And I think that brand is the answer to that. And a lot of times people want to say, I have a marketing problem. And that might be true. But if you don't address the underlying foundation of brand before you start to address marketing, then you're always going to be coming back to that foundational problem. You're just putting a band-aid on it.
Yeah, and we see it all the time, right? Especially small businesses. I mean, they'll dump tons of money into PPC or to social media ads or SEO or all this kind of stuff without really knowing who they are, right? And
Mm,
it's such a, it's such. I see it every day because I deal with a ton of small businesses, and it's just such a waste of money when you don't have a direction, And I
yeah,
what
yeah.
you guys do in that format is amazing. So talk a little bit about, and this is off the top of my head, but it's been something I kind of my mind for a while. I feel like over the last, I don't know if it's 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, especially with social media and everything else, building like your own personal identity and personal brand has become as important, maybe more important than building a business brand. Does that kind of make sense for small businesses?
Oh, 100%. So we see it in bigger businesses all of the time where we can see that the CEO of a company is running their own personal brand and their own message in parallel to the corporate brand of the company that they're running.
Sure.
And statistics are and studies have been done around personal branding, and the message is clear that people trust people. We trust people, not logos and not companies. And we do business with companies when we know that our values or who we are align well with the person who's at the top of that company. The second that a CEO is doing something and they show up in the news and that's not really in alignment with who we are, what we like, and we feel yucky about it, like, we're going to think about not spending our money there. People are
Sure.
making far more conscious decisions about how they're spending their money. And with the age of social media, businesses and business owners can't hide behind the wall of anonymity anymore. Everything is transparent. And so I can look and find any business and figure out who the CEO of that company is or who that is and what could probably find them online on LinkedIn. And I guess the question is, not necessarily that if I search you, am I going to find something bad, but if I search you, am I going to find anything at all? And is that a huge missed opportunity for you to communicate something important about who you are, what you believe, how you do business? It totally is. And so I think that personal branding isn't necessarily a nice to have anymore. It's actually a crucial part of conducting your business and a crucial part of your communication needs. So really paying attention to how do the people who are most visible in the company, the C-suite, the executives, the CEO, how are those people showing up and running personal brands that are parallel to their corporate brand? Because there should be ties, and that personal brand success is going to elevate the success of the corporate brand.
Yeah, of course. So I think a thing that's hard for a lot of small businesses getting into it, or individuals, is they really want to measure everything by an ROI, right? So you can run a Google PPC campaign and know exactly what your ROI is theoretically. And when you go with the brand, with brand identity and brand development, it's kind of hard to track that. So how do you help your customers see the value in it? I mean, I do. I totally get it 100%. But I mean, I know there's a lot of small businesses out there that just don't understand it. How can you show value to them for building and identifying their brand?
Yeah. Um, there's a lot of ways to answer this. But the short one for me is that when you are going to put money into your marketing campaigns, whether that be your ad campaigns, your organic content, email marketing, whatever the case may be, and you're tracking that ROI and you're going to base the success of that campaign off of a variety of factors. You're going to base it off of targeting of audience. You're going to base it off of the copy in the ad that you're going to write. You're going to base it off of the quality of the creative that you create for those campaigns. Now, if you haven't done branding, you don't know any of those answers. So if you haven't done branding and you go to your advertising specialist, your Facebook ads person, and they say, "Great, who are we targeting?" and you don't know that answer, that's a branding question. And so if you go and they're like, "Hey, you're going to hire a graphic designer to help you create Facebook ads." And they say, "Great, like what's your brand guide and your colors and your fonts and your like what am I doing? Who's your audience?" And you don't have answers for that, you're just going to be like, "I don't know, I guess I'll just let them decide."
Yeah.
That's a branding question. So really what I say is that the branding is what resources you to be able to go out and be effective in every area of your business. So the KPI is off the backs of every other KPI of your business. If you're running like customer satisfaction surveys and you're asking them, "Do you think that we're priced fairly?" and they don't have anything to stick to you other than the price, they're probably going to say no. Your
Sure.
customer satisfaction is going to tank. If you don't have standards for how it is that you communicate, what it is that you're saying, how you want people to feel, then none of the other stuff that you're going to do is going to matter. So I feel like branding is the foundation for every KPI that you run through your business. And if you haven't answered these questions first, you're just guessing, and that is a giant waste of money.
Yeah, 100%. It's so funny because it literally should be, outside of the financial dig into seeing, you want to start a small business. You want to, one, make sure that you have the money and the resources to do it because that's the number one reason that people fall out, right? So, but once you've done that, I think establishing your brand is probably the second most important thing to a startup of a business. You figured, hey, I can do this. I want to do this. I've got the resources to do this. And then they just go wandering off into a whole bunch of different areas. Whereas the brand really brings you together. But something you mentioned, so people like to buy from people, right? So tell us a little bit about you. How did you get to this situation in this company, and what led you here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I went to ASU here,
Yeah, there you go.
Sun Devil here in Arizona, and I went to the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications, and I minored in theater performance, and my specialization was in public relations. And I, graduated college at this really great time called 2008,
Uh,
right around the time when everything was tanking.
sure.
And something interesting happened. I mean, everything I think that is working in our greater good, and something really interesting happened in the economy, in the market, in the job market then, where there were no longer segmented and compartmentalized roles. It was everybody needs to be a generalist and everybody needs to get your hands dirty. And there's no such thing as that's not my job. And so PR and marketing and communications all kind of got lumped into one. And so I started out doing public relations and journalism, which I think served me well because I learned how to tell a good story. I
Mhm.
learned how to tell it concisely and clearly. And a little brag, but I think that the Walter Cronkite School has some of the highest standards for journalism and storytelling. And it was really a pleasure to kind of come out of that environment. So I worked in various roles across corporate and nonprofit in marketing and communications, and really self-taught myself a lot of different modalities and competencies over the years. And then I had, like many creatives do, was freelancing and moonlighting on the side while I was running my full-time job. And it had always been my vision to go out on my own. There was definitely people were coming to me and I had to turn them away because I didn't have the
Sure.
time or the capacity. And I think if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, you kind of just have it or you don't. And
Sure.
I always have had it. So I took a big risk and I went out on my own. And that was about 4.5 years ago. And since then, it's been a steep learning curve, as
Uh-huh.
you can imagine. And a lot of just what we're doing right now, talking about what this is and why this matters, and really being able to go out and help and serve people and grow their businesses, because I like to say that my purpose is helping other people find theirs.
Sure. I love it. So crazy question though, when you started your business, was brand development the first thing that you took on?
One of the very first things,
Uh-huh.
yes.
That's
And I want to say that also brands are these living, breathing things. I think people are so scared to say, like, this is who I am, because they feel nervous about
yeah,
etching it in stone. And yes, there should be pieces of it. Like, you don't want to rebrand every couple of years. Like, that's a waste of resources. So it's better to do it now and do it well. But brands are iterative and they are these living, breathing things that can morph and evolve eventually into who the business is in that moment. And that's totally okay. So I think that it's okay to start scrappy. It's okay to start a DIY brand. There's nothing wrong with that. But we like to say that, about like 1 to 5 years in, if you DIY'd your brand and you only focused on visual identity and you didn't do any brand strategy, that is a perfect time for you to go through the rebrand process with someone like us so that we can help really solidify that and propel you into the next phase of your business.
cool. So your name's Sarah, but the company's name is Elly and Nora. So what's going on with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great talking point, and conversation starter. So when I started this business, part of the branding process is vision. And what is it that you see for this business and this company? What are you hoping for? And I really did not want it to be just about me. And I was really clear that I wanted this to be an agency model where people could find ownership in the work, and that I could bring people along with me and that we could build something incredible together. And so I just felt really strongly I did not want it to be associated with my name, but I do think there is something special and personable about this name combination. So I chose Elly and Nora based off of two women that I'm very inspired by. Elly is for Eleanor Roosevelt, and Nora is for Nora Ephron. And I felt like I said, these two women just had qualities that were really inspiring to me for the type of work that we do. Eleanor Roosevelt was a force, and she was a lot of times in situations where she was the only woman and she was pushing boundaries and buttons, and she was someone who was willing to challenge other people, and I think that that is really important in the type of work that we do. And Nora Ephron was creative and witty and observant, and she didn't take herself too seriously. And so I really loved kind of this balance of these two forceful and powerful women. And I wanted my business to have some of those qualities as we started. And so that's where the name came from.
I love it. So it's been fantastic talking to you. It's Elly and Nora, and I think it's Elly and Nora creative.com, right?
That's right. Yep.
Excellent. Do you want to throw anything out there to folks that may be interested in chatting with you, or anything tidbits you can give them to get started in the branding arena?
Yeah, absolutely. So if this is something that is exciting or something you're really thinking about, feel free to head to our website and you can book a call with me, and I can hop on for free and just talk you through whether or not branding is a good fit for you at this phase of your business. And we can go from there.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Sarah, so much for your time. Have a wonderful week and take care.
Pleasure. Thank you.
You betcha.